This video is about decision structures or control structures in Python. Decision structures, or we call it control structures, allow you to execute certain block of code based on the conditions. So the primary decision structures in Python include if, elif, and else statements. So why do we need to use if-else in Python? If-else lets your program make decisions, for example, executing different code based on conditions. Without it, code runs the same way every time, regardless of your input or state. For example, you have a number equals to -5. You want to test whether the number is positive or negative, but your code is only like this. Every time you run this code, you will always see that the number is positive being displayed. You have no way of testing whether this variable is positive or negative. But with the if-else statement, for example, if number greater than 0, then print the number is positive. Else, print the number is negative. So if you run this code, this is what you see. So the number is -5. Because this condition is false, it will skip doing this part of the code and go to this branch of the code. So it will print the number is negative. Another situation is when, for example, you have a password where the password is this password and you want to give access to the user if the password is correct. But if you have a program like this, whether the password is correct or not, the access will always be granted. But if you add a checking mechanism, whether the password is equal to secret, for example, then you give it an access, else you won't give the access to the user. If you run this code and the password is not the same as the correct password, then it will display wrong password. So that is just an overview of why we need to use if and else statement. So here is the detailed overview of how if statement works. The first one is the if statement. This is the simplest decision structure where it will execute a block of code if a specified condition evaluates to true. So you use this one when you only care if something is true. For example, age equals to 20, and if age greater or equals to 18, then you print you are eligible to vote. So when you run this, if the age is greater than or equal to 18, then it will print you are eligible to vote. But what if the age is less than 18? Then nothing is being displayed. That's because you don't have any other condition to test whether the age is less than 18. So this is where you will use if-else statement. The if-else statement will create two possible outcomes. For example, here, else print you are not eligible to vote. When you run the code, because the age is less than 18, you will notice that it jumps to this branch of code where it will print you are not eligible to vote. Now there is another scenario where if you want to display a grade of a student, if a student receives a grade and you want to give it a grade of A, B, C, and D, for that case you need to use if, elif, else statement. This will allow for multiple possible outcomes. For example, you have a grade equals to 85 and you want to give this grade A, B, or C, or D. If the grade is greater or equal to 90, print A. Elif grade greater or equals to 80, print B. Elif grade greater equals to 70, print C. Else print D. So when you run this code, here the output is B. When you have this grade, at first, the program will test whether the grade is greater than 90. For this, the condition is false. So it will skip this part of the code and it will go to this part of the code and it will check whether the grade is greater than 80. In this case, the condition is true. So it will run this part of the code and skip the rest of this. But what if you do something like this? If you don't have a if-elif branch, you simply put if for all of this and see what happens. If grade less than 70. So when you run this, you will notice that there are two grades being displayed. That is because at this condition will give you a false condition. So it will not print A. But here, grade is greater than 80. So it will print B. So this is what you get here. The problem with this kind of code is that it will not skip the rest of this once you found part of the if that is true. It will continue testing for the rest of the if statement. After executing this one, it continues with the next if statement. In this if statement, the grade is greater than 70, which is also true. That's why it prints C. That is why using this kind of if statement is not advisable. The best way is using the elif, where once it found at least one of these to be true, then it will skip the rest. You can also do nested if. So what does it mean? Is like you'll see an if inside another if statement. For example, let's say you have the age is 20 and you have the citizenship is equals to US. So here, if the age is greater or equals to 18, and here you test again, if the citizenship is equal to US, then you print you are eligible to vote. Else, print you are not eligible to vote in the US. In the US, here is testing whether your age is allowed to be eligible to vote, and also you must be a citizenship of US. Here is just another else statement that says you are not eligible to vote. So the else statement here indicates that because of age is not greater than 18, so you are not eligible to vote based on your age. But if your age is greater than 18, the program will also check whether you are a citizenship of the US. So here you have another if statement. So this is what we call a nested if-else statement. In this case, the if-else statement is nested inside this if. It can also be nested in else here. But you can also combine this using logical operators in this condition. For example, if age greater than 18 and citizenship equal to US, then you can do this. Else, you're not eligible to vote. So in conclusion, decision structures like this are essential for controlling the flow of a program based on the conditions. By using the if, elif, else statement, you can create a flexible and dynamic programs that respond to user input and other variables.